Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia 76ers Now, right here on Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. In a little while, you're going to hear from producer Chip. And coming up on today's show, a rumors roundup here on day 4 of NBA free agency because Daryl Morey is not done filling out this roster. The 76ers, according to reports, are interested in these players right here, and some of them fulfill big needs on this Sixers roster. Caleb Martin, formerly of the Miami Heat, Marcus Morris, who last played for the Cleveland Cavaliers and played for the Sixers following the James Harden trade, Haywood Highsmith, who was a Sixers process legend several years ago, and then Reggie Bullock, a 3-and-D wing who could be a decent vet-min depth piece. Make sure you subscribe to the channel before we talk about those players. We're approaching 18,000 subscribers. We've embarked on the most historic run in the history of this program, which launched in 2021. All the support that we've gotten has been incredible. The views have been impeccable, and the subscribers have really gathered momentum and picked up steam. So make sure you hit that sub button if you like the show. What we try to do every day is give you insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking Sixers content that involves you, the fan. Let's start off here with talking about Caleb Martin. Decided to not opt into his contract with the Miami Heat. He was an opt-out because he thought as though if he hit the free agency market, number one, he was going to have suitors, and potentially number two, he was going to have an opportunity to make some more money. It was really good for the Miami Heat in the playoffs 2 years ago, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. Cooled off a little bit in the NBA Finals, but you got a glimpse of what he's capable of at that wing spot for a player who is crafty in getting to the rim, can knock down the three, and is a good defender at that size of 6'5", 205. Here's what Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald said about Martin. The 76ers have had discussions with Heat free agent Caleb Martin as they scan the free agency market for options to fill their roster, according to a league source. A lot of it is going to come down to the price tag for Caleb Martin. I think a team out there would be willing and able to pay him between $10 to $13 million per year. Right now, Philadelphia is a little bit tight on cash, where if they give him that much money, they won't be able to fill out the rest of their team. You look at his numbers over the last 4 years. His best shooting campaign came in 2021-2022 when he averaged 9 points on 50.7% shooting, 41% from three. The three-point numbers have gone down the last 2 years. I think he's a better three-point knockdown shooter than 35%, which is what he shot last year as he was a little bit hot and cold, maybe pressing a little bit, looking to get that new deal. I think that he can hover between 37 and 40%. The big thing with him, the shot making when he's on, and the defense, which is always a constant. Chip, Caleb Martin, interesting player here, a part of that Heat culture. He's been in a lot of big playoff games, played in some huge NCAA tournament games alongside his brother back several years ago for Nevada. What do you think about Caleb Martin and his potential fit with the Sixers?
Yeah, and that playoff experience is exactly why I like the idea of adding Caleb Martin. We saw in that run that he made to the finals. I mean, he was tremendous in that playoff run, just knocking down shots left and right, sort of had an out-of-body experience, and the hope for a lot of Heat fans was that would carry into this past season, and it really didn't. He kind of took a little bit of a step back, wasn't able to demand as much of an offensive load as he was during that playoff run, but still a solid player nonetheless. Now, I'm not sure if Caleb Martin fulfills the Sixers' need at starting four because he is only 6'5", 6'6", and isn't going to be that big rebounder that maybe some Sixers fans would hope at that four position. He's more of a three, in my opinion, because again, he doesn't have that height, and he's not going to, be a crazy rebounder. I think he'd be a great first man off the bench, wing defender off the bench that could certainly play in closing lineups, depending on the matchups and who you're playing. Will be a little more pricey than some of the other people on this list. So Sixers about $9-10 million left in salary cap space, and that could be like their last move they make before signing some other vet min targets. So keep an eye on Caleb Martin again. Some solid seasons with the Heat. Could hopefully get that three-point number back up. And who knows? Could be solid for the Sixers in the playoffs.
Yeah, a couple of things with him, too. Additionally, he could go to a team where he could start. He's not going to start for Philadelphia. He could go to a team to make some more money, which he might not be able to do with Philadelphia. He could return to the Miami Heat. Now, the Miami Heat signing Alec Burks, does that signal the end of needing a scorer like Caleb Martin? We'll certainly see. Player number 2 who we want to talk about here on the show is a former short-time Sixer, Philadelphia native, went to prep charter, Kansas legend, been in the NBA for a long time. He's now already in his mid-30s. Time has flown, I'll tell you that. Marcus Morris Sr., and we know what he can bring to the table. I thought with Philadelphia after the James Harden trade, when he was thrust into the lineup, when he actually played, especially when some injuries happened, hit some big shots. He played okay. This could be the 4-man for Philadelphia. It's not ideal to have an older player starting on this team with championship aspirations. You ideally want to bring him in off the bench, but it's part of the predicament that the Sixers are in here because, as Chip said, they don't have a lot of cap space. Keith Pompey, Philadelphia Inquirer, saying this, according to sources, Sixers have expressed interest in bringing back Philly native Marcus Morris Sr. And he's played good ball in recent years. He's played good ball on some solid Clippers teams, as evidenced by the numbers here, 13, 15, 11 points per game. This past year, though, just didn't see as much time as seasons prior. Has the mid-range, can knock down the three. You know he's always going to be North Philly tough. He'll get in your grill and defend you. He's not the player, obviously, that he once was in his prime, but this is a player, Chip, who you can get on the vet min, no doubt about it.
Yeah, no doubt. And ideally, I think, again, this is a player that you wouldn't want to start, but he was solid for Philadelphia. And obviously, he's going to bring that, Philly toughness, that mentality. The fans love him. He knows what it's like to play here, of course. So, if you sign somebody else, like a Caleb Martin, that you need a backup for, I wouldn't mind Morris at all. He's going to get his shots up, hopefully be efficient when he does take those shots. It's tough, so can play a little bit of defense. Not the most laterally quick player and not a, big player that's going to really defend at the rim or grab too many rebounds as well. But when it comes to solid depth pieces that championship teams need as they're making those runs, that 8th, 9th, 10th guy off the bench, Marcus Morris could certainly fill that role, familiar with the city. For Vetman, 100%, I'd love to bring in Marcus Morris.
So we've talked about Marcus Morris. We talked about Caleb Martin. Next up on the show, we want to talk about, I'm not going to call him like an outright 76ers process legend. And when I say legend, I say that tongue-in-cheek, obviously sarcastically. But Haywood Highsmith went to Wheeling University. Okay, not a basketball powerhouse by any means, and a lot of people are aware of his story. He played for the Delaware Bluecoats in 2018-2019, and then a couple of games with the 76ers in 2019. Depending on how you look at the timeline of the process, you can look at that as the end of the process, depending on when you think it ended. For me, it's kind of in the early portion of the process. It's post Sam Hinkie, but that's when the Sixers started to win and pick up steam, and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons were kind of established players at that point. But Haywood Highsmith, he was around all the way back then and played over the last couple of years with the Miami Heat since 2021. Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer, once again, with the reporting on this front, the Sixers have been in discussions with Miami Heat free agent and former Sixer Haywood Highsmith as a free agent option. He would probably get 10 to 15 minutes per night on the Sixers team, and maybe 10 to 15 minutes is a little bit too much. Now, when Jimmy Butler did get hurt in the NBA playoffs or in the NBA play-in tournament, when Kelly Oubre injured his knee by accident, and then he missed that first-round series against Boston, Haywood Highsmith was thrust into the lineup by Eric Spoelstra. He saw some decent time in that one game that the Heat won when they shot the lights out in that first-round series against Boston. Haywood Highsmith able to hit a couple of big shots in that ball game. 6 points per game last year, 3 rebounds, 46.5% from the field, almost 40% from three-point range. But what's the theme of today's show, and what's the theme right now and moving forward for the 76ers free agency period? When you're paying max contracts to 3 different players, and Daryl Morey does have a 3-star theory where the more stars that you have, the better opportunity you have to win a championship. But Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, they're all making maxes. So realistically, you just don't have a lot of money left to fill out the rest of your team. You want to avoid the restrictions of that second apron, which is why you're looking at players of this level. And honestly, Caleb Martin might be too expensive for Philadelphia because of the quality of player that he is.
Yeah, and Haywood Highsmith has come a long way since he started his career with the Sixers. Really developed into a solid off-ball, stand in the corner, three-point shooter, and he plays very solid defense. I think, much better than Marcus Morris is going to play. Caleb Martin's a good defender as well, but Haywood Highsmith is going to cost way less than a player like Caleb Martin. And coming off the bench, again, for the Heat, been a pretty dependable role player. Going to always play solid defense and going to be able to catch and shoot off that three-point shot. He's another guy that, again, you get close to that, first apron, close to that salary cap space. You need vet mins. Could he be a vet min guy? He might demand a little bit more than that because of what he showed for the Heat last year. But again, Sixers with about $9 million in cap space, so you shell out $5 million over a couple years to Haywood Highsmith. Going to be a tough player, going to defend, be physical. So Haywood Highsmith, Sixers obviously interested in him, so keep an eye on him and these other guys as well. Over the next couple of days, I expect they sign one of these four that we'll talk about here.
And then finally, a couple of years ago, I was a fan of Reggie Bullock. I thought he did a good job of being a stickler on the defensive end of the floor, knocking down some threes when he was playing alongside Luka Doncic. I thought he was a good fit on that team because he fit in well, given the roster construction there. He hovered around the three-point arc, and he could knock down that three ball, give you some solid defense. He did play for the Houston Rockets last year and barely played. Only 44 games with 0 starts. He only got 9.5 minutes per. He's looking to continue his NBA career. I'm not sure how much gas he has left in the tank after a couple of several years there and trying to really earn his way on some NBA rosters, and then he became a really good rotation player and a starter for a couple of teams. Kelly Iko saying that Rockets wing Reggie Bullock is unlikely to return to Houston. Multiple playoff teams have expressed interest in the veteran sharpshooter. Bullock has met with the Suns, Nuggets, Clippers, and 76ers so far. So that's a meeting that we know about, more expected in the coming days. What you always want to look at for Reggie Bullock, what are the three-point numbers? Because outside of Chuck and the triple, he's not really going to give you much outside of that. 2020, 2021, 41% from three with the New York Knicks. He goes to the Mavericks. 36% and 38% in the 2 years there where he's playing a lot of games. And then last year, seldom used by Houston. Does he have something left in the tank here, Chip? Can he contribute to this team? It would be a player with size who can defend, who can knock down the three for Philadelphia.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be honest. I think Reggie Bullock, if you sign him, wouldn't really crack the rotation. He's definitely a vet min target here. And a pretty typical Daryl Morey signing, a veteran who's getting up there in age, has shown the ability to shoot the three. He could come in spurts, give you 4 or 5 minutes here and there, and hopefully be able to knock down some threes. But getting up there in age doesn't give you anything else outside of that three-point shot. So, it makes sense as a vet min signing, last guy on your roster type of thing, but not a player I would expect to really make much of an impact for the Sixers if they were to go out and sign him.
Godspeed in the comment section during our live show saying, Reggie Bullock is Daniel House without handles, hard pass. Honestly, it's not a bad depiction of who he is at this point. We talked about 4 players on today's show. Now it's time for you to get into the comment section and pick one who you want the Sixers to sign. Who do you like the most here? Caleb Martin, Haywood Highsmith, Marcus Morris, Reggie Bullock. As you venture down to the comment section, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 20,000 subscribers ASAP.